Hello everyone, this is Dr. Martin Wucher. Another video. We're going to look at the virus, what's done, what then story behind it. The big questions that we have are going to be answered one by one. So number one, is this something that hasn't been around before? Corona has been around for many years, and it's been found in sewage water in various places up to 20 years ago. And according to European scientists, corona forms a large part of our flu season every year. In other words, corona is nothing new. There is some evidence that corona has been tampered with. In other words, some things were added to it to make it worse or to make it stay longer, whatever they try to do. So, but that really, in the end, as you will see by the end of the series, is just a sideline. It's not really that crucial. Yes, everyone wants to know that. I think most of us have seen that if we take our own country, Namibia, our death rate is incredibly low. It's probably lower than from dying from a car accident and so on. So if you look at all these statistics, it doesn't really affect young people, especially school-going children. We haven't had any of that, and I don't know of anyone in the world that has died of corona that was at school going age, especially if their immune systems were intact. And all the big guys, all the knowledgeable guys reckon it can be compared with a flu, a bad flu, but if you're ready for it, you can handle it. So if you look at the death, this is what happens in different age groups. You can see 0 to 19 years, virtually zero. Then in the next one, also virtually zero in the age range 30 to 39 years. In this group, there was one person. But then, of course, when you get to the 70s and above, this is where it becomes more dangerous and you will have more deaths. Now, one could argue, are these people dying from corona? Are they dying with corona? Or are they actually dying because they would have died anyway? So this is not our topic here today. Long story short, it's not really that dangerous. Lots has been said and is daily being said about testing. We want more testing. Now, surely any normal person would say if you use testing and you want to base all sorts of decisions on it, you would assume that testing is correct and valuable. First thing is the PCR test that's been done en masse is not designed for viral infections. It's got huge error margins, and especially error margins in the direction of positives. So if you test a lot, you can expect a lot more positive tests, even if these people are not positive at all. Often it's not used in the correct manner, and of course, a positive, as we will see just later, does not mean you are actually infected. In other words, the virus doesn't have to be inside you. So this is something that comes from Swiss Policy Research, a very interesting group of people. I've put the link down. You can go and look it up. You're really just testing for pieces of a virus, genetic pieces, and it could be virtually from any other coronavirus. This is what has been written on the insert for the tests produced by Roche. In other words, it's not supposed to be used for diagnostic tests, and it's only for research purpose. And of course, these tests have been used en masse. Here we have Professor Dr. Hockertz, a very well-known professor in Germany, and he outright says the German chancellor, if they talk about 1,000 more infected people, they are basically just lying because they're using a test that cannot do it, and if they come up with positive results, it's a lie. So, does positivity mean infection? Infection normally means that some pathogen has got into you. It's inside your body, inside your organs, inside your cells in the case of a virus. In this case, that doesn't mean that. Positive test means parts of viruses have been found on your mucous membrane in your nose just by that little swab or whatever they used to. So it doesn't mean it is inside your cell. It could be inside your cell. It doesn't have to be. And this is a huge, very important point. You don't have to be sick with it. Okay? Your body doesn't react to it, or it reacts so well to it that it kills it even before it can make you sick. And also, it doesn't prove 100% that you are spreading the virus, because it might be one virus inside your nose, 2, 3, maybe 100 that your body has actually killed already. So no way can they infect anybody else, but you just found a piece of it. And of course, it doesn't prove that you're in danger, and doesn't prove that you're going to die at all. So here you have David Icke, a British guy. That's what he puts up, and we'll talk about him in the second section. And he's got these things. So basically, it's not a testing thing. It's basically a testing scam, as he calls it. Your chance of dying, let's see, very, 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 very small. In Namibia, we've got roughly 140 people, probably even less, out of 2.4, 2.5 million people. And if you work it out, and you are at 0.006%. If your vitamin levels and your health is good, this will go to virtually nearly zero. So your chance of dying is pretty close to zero. If you look at this was taken on the 13th of October this year from the World Health Organization. They've got Namibia with 129 tests. I've even used 140. But if you take that, we are very, very, very low. Worldwide, cumulative deaths. The pink ones are the cases. Remember, that's the positive case. And then the blue one in the middle, that thin line, is the people that have died associated with COVID. And then, of course, death from all causes, meaning it's gone down. In other words, there are fewer people dying worldwide for whatever reason, but the COVID deaths are really not the big thing. There are lots of different interventions. Prevention, we can use vitamins. Treatments is like quercetin, NAC, and acetyl cysteine, and then hydroxychloroquine. And then if you really get into trouble, you can be hospitalized, and there's a whole range more that can be done. So that the whole argument of vaccination for something that can be treated differently and easily, actually this question answers itself. There is absolutely no reason for vaccinating 99% of the population for a problem that 1% may have. Let me repeat that. You don't need to vaccinate 99% for a problem that 1% will have. Imagine one person out of 100 wants to have sex at night, and you force all 100 persons to wear a condom. It's really crazy. Only a small percentage of people will develop antibodies anyway, and the most important thing in our body is what we call cell-mediated immunity. In other words, it's the killer cells that will kill the virus first, and if it gets killed with the killer cells, it doesn't even get to the other cells that make antibodies. So if you use vitamin D, you will find that your immunity is so strong that you won't get antibodies, because the virus never gets to the place where antibodies are made. Yes, of course, we always talk about masks. What's the story with masks? Are masks sensible? The Center of Disease Control tells us to wear masks. And yet they came out with a study in July, and actually they did this study. The study only came out later. I think it was in October. And if you look inside the studies, there's a really interesting statistic here. And the statistic says here at the bottom, you look at the people. These are the numbers that got sick. This column, these are case patients, and these are control. And if you see, the numbers at the bottom are the highest. And if you go to the left here, they've often or always worn masks. So the people in this statistic that have worn masks always are the sickest out of the whole lot. Surely, this is something really fascinating. And if you add it all up, you can say that the summary here is that the days the days before the illness, they've been wearing masks. And 71 or 74% of the people that always wore masks had a problem. So I don't need to say anything further. Not only are the masks not effective, in fact, there's evidence that they might make it worse. Will we ever conquer the virus? Quite honestly, we will never conquer the virus. It's like trying to say we'll kill all the flies in the world, and flies are a lot bigger than a virus. Guys, forget it. We have to live with flies. We have to live with viruses. It's medically under control, just like flies are under control. We can live with them, then they hassle us, but look, they're part of our life. Our immune system is made to deal with viruses, so will deal with this one as well. Vaccines, we don't have any vaccines. There are no tested ones. They're not ready and they're not proven. In fact, some of the tests, the initial trials have been stopped because people got really sick. And if big companies stop their trials, you can vow on it that there's big trouble there. And I just feel sorry for the poor suckers that go and have themselves injected as test rabbits, because nobody knows what's going to happen to them. Looking at Switzerland and weekly cumulative deaths, a line that is below the zero line, in other words, below here, this one means they're less than normal, and the ones that are above it is more than normal. So if we go here to the left and we look at week 12 to week 19, this was the time that the lockdown was implemented in Switzerland. And this is an interesting one. Before the lockdown started at week 12, the corona death or corona associated death were below normal. They were here. And as the lockdown was implemented, they shot up. Now, remember, lockdown also means wearing masks and all this stuff. So if you think back of the previous research there, you could argue that saying, okay, the lockdown together with masks has actually made people more sick. So this is just an interesting sideline here. And then what is there to defend ourselves? Number one, if you start lying to people and you do it often and repetitively enough, eventually they will believe the story. So first of all, remember, it's nothing outside of the biggest defense. The best thing we have is our immune system. Yes, washing hands, being hygienic, of course, it's important. Your lifestyle, stop eating junk food, sugar, and so on. Come down to earth, do what people normally do to stay healthy, move your body, get into nature, hug each other, be together with your friends, enjoy life, and let kids be kids. Just start thinking logically, connect the dots, and always question anything. And if somebody tells you this is a tin hat or a conspiracy theorist, open your ears and listen to these guys. You don't have to agree with them, you don't have to deny, just let it sink in and make sure that you make up your own mind. So, lastly, should we be worried? Well, I think the virus is not the issue. The virus is not something we need to worry about. What is happening in the big picture, this is what the next video will be about. And then, of course, I believe we should worry about governments and how they handle this and what they do to their own people and how they abuse power. That should be our biggest worry. I think the virus is nothing. Government abuse and government fascism is the biggest problem we have at the moment. So let's go through these questions. The virus new? No, it's not new. Is the virus dangerous? Absolutely not. The tests are not accurate. If you're positive, are you going to die? Absolutely not. Very, very, very small chance. And then, are there ways to treat it? Yes, there are several or even many different ways to treat it. There are a lot of knowledgeable doctors around that can handle it. Vaccines, not essential. Remember, if 1 out of 100 wants to have sex, you don't have 100 guys walking around with a condom. We will never conquer this virus. Actually, we do not need to. It's like we don't need to conquer flies. We can live with them. What's your best defense? Yes, of course, open your mind, think about it, and get your immune system going. Lastly, should you be worried? Not at all. Focus on the long term, focus on logic, and relax, and worry more about your government and what they do than the virus. Guys, that's in a nutshell. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day, and see you next time.